Hey guys, what is up? My name is Megan. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe, and welcome to today's video, which is a book review for The Secret Dead book club. The Secret Dead book club is by Ken Strong, and it is a spooky middle grade book. If you did not know, this was the book club pick for the Sprinkle of Magic book club for the month of October, which is a book club I run where we read a different middle grade book each month. They are usually middle grade fantasy or mysteries. Obviously, this is a spooky book, so I decided to pick it for the month of October, and I thought I would share my thoughts with you guys in a spoiler-free manner, as it is what was most requested. The Secret Dead book club is a spooky, or should I say spoopy, middle grade book that features a main character named Wednesday Thomas. And essentially at the beginning of this book we learn that Wednesday is a main character who can see the dead, and this is not a secret. Her family is well aware, as it is a skill that has been passed down through generations. Most people in her family have lost their skill once they have hit puberty. However, our main character's grandmother or great-grandmother, I can never remember, had this skill throughout all her life, and she was the first in the family in generations to be able to have this skill all her life. And so at the beginning of this book, our main character and her mom move from their RV that, you know, traveled a lot. They were in Las Vegas, a lot of places, back to the hometown where our main character and her mother are from, to live in her grandmother's home. And we learn very quickly why our main character and her mom do the move back, and in this story we follow our main character as she is adapting from going to homeschooling to a regular school, making friends, and being invited to this club that is called the Dead Club, where she and the other characters you can see on the cover basically solve a ghost memory. Now our main character sees ghosts, and she really doesn't want to see ghosts at the beginning of this book because some things have happened to her, and this is the story of friendship, of overcoming difficulties. It is a story of family, and it is a story of grief. Overall, would I say this is a new favorite middle grade book? Unfortunately, no. I would give this a 3.75 out of 5 stars. I do not think it is bad in any way, shape, or form. It's just not a new favorite because I don't think it does a lot. This book is like 230 pages long, so it is on the shorter end for a book, and I do think there were some issues with pacing in the first half of this. So I will say that I did feel an instant connection to the characters, and I really liked learning about all their backstories. There's a lot of diversity in the characters, whether that be like from their origins or their backstories. Like, not two characters are the same, and I really liked the representation of that. And I just think they all had such charming, unique sides to them, but there wasn't really much happening in the first 120 pages of this book. I will say the latter half of this book gets a lot better. There is a better plot, and the spoopy kind of feelings really come in the last 50 pages, but before that it's really just a tale of friendship, and you know, if that's what you're looking for, that is great. However, I was mostly looking for kind of like a secret society-ish vibes, or a little bit more interactions with like scary ghosts, that kind of thing. When I first learned about this book, I immediately thought like, oh, this could be like the Cassidy Blake series by Victoria Schwab. Obviously I was not expecting a carbon copy of that book, but I wanted a book with similar vibes, and that is not really what this book is. I think it is a little bit lighter than that. Now, I will say the purpose of this is not to like bash this book at all, and I really don't try and like bash especially middle grade books, because I think first of all, I am not the target audience for middle grade, and I'm well aware of that. I just want to like make sure people understand that this is not like the Cassidy Blake series. It's not like The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane. It's something completely different, and it stands on its own. It's just, I don't want people to go in with wrong expectations, especially if you've seen me hype this book up on my channel, how excited I was for it, and what I have compared it to in the past is not exactly accurate, and that is my fault, not the book's fault. And I think in the acknowledgements, the author really says like, this is a story of friendship, and I do think that if that was the aim of the author, it was perfectly well done. So instead of like continuing on like what I expected of this book, I want to focus on what this book does right. First of all, as I mentioned, this is definitely a story of a friendship, and it is about a story and it is a story of a main character who did not used to have friends. She was obviously alone with her mom, traveling in an RV, being homeschooled, did not give her many opportunities to make friends. And so this is a beautiful thing to witness in this book, because we see our main character go through the trials and tribulations and the lack of confidence in making friends, because it's something that is so new to her. And I loved seeing her like question the inside voices in her head that are like, oh, maybe you should just leave before you get hurt, or if someone disappoints you, you should just leave. But then she's like, no, like, I've never had friends, I want to go through this and like live through the good and bad with these friends. And we can really see that both in her way of thinking and the actions she takes in this book. So it really felt like the main character was aligned in her thoughts and in her actions, and I can really appreciate that, because it's not a lot of authors who are capable of doing that. And I think the other strongest point in this story is the discussion around grief, because our main character, her family members, her friends, have all gone through different types of grief and are grieving different people. And I think that the different characters express their grief in very different ways, and our main character kind of has the realization that like grief can be demonstrated in so many different ways, but it doesn't make one kind of grief or one person's grief less valuable than another. And I think that discussion and that realization of our main character and the importance of getting the chance to grieve for someone and what that does was very poignant, because obviously in this book we are talking about people who pass, and in this book ghosts, or the people that she can see at least, are people who have not gone to the afterlife completely. There's still something holding them back, and usually a main character's job is kind of like to help them figure out what that is so that they can go into the afterlife. And I think that the mention of the fact that a lot of people who pass away don't get a chance to say goodbye, and that is on both sides. Like, the person who leaves Earth doesn't get goodbyes, and sometimes the people who are grieving don't get their goodbyes, and that makes closure so much harder. And I think that the way this was brought up in this book was so well done for any age range, but I think it will really resonate with younger people because of the simplicity and the way it was explained. But it was really touching to see how this author was able to weave such important life concepts into this story of like ghost hunting. And if you're new to my channel, you might not know why it's so relevant to me, but I, as a person and as a in a clinical lens, am very attracted to the discussions of grief, and it made my heart so incredibly happy to see this featured in this book. And just like the overall vibes, like the discussions of like spooky season and the vibes of Halloween, because our main character goes trick-or-treating with her friends, and just all of those vibes were also very well done. I will say, as I said, this book is very short, and I did listen to the audiobook as well. I had a really fun time with the audio. It's on a lot of different platforms. I think it's pretty accessible, even though this is a newer book at the time of reviewing this. I think the audiobook is really fun, and it adds a little bit to the spooky element of this novel. And overall, it's a short, definitely more fast-paced read. You don't sit around and not do much in this book. It is very action paced. Our characters are doing something. It takes over a short span of time. Like, it's not throughout an entire year. So that will please some people, might not please others, but overall I do think this was really well constructed. I don't have much qualms with the writing itself. It's just like the pacing and the lack of plot in the first half of this book is what, for me, took it down from like a 4.5 to a 3.75, but overall I would still recommend this book for spooky season, if you want to introduce people to the concepts of griefs, if you want to read about diverse characters, if you want to read about a small group of friends that learns about each other, and just like that overall friendship vibe. I think this book would fulfill all of those checkboxes very easily. Just don't go into it thinking it's gonna be like Cassidy Blake, it's gonna be like The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane, because it's something very different, at least in my eyes. But I did really enjoy this. I believe the author has more books out that I would definitely read, but I'm not gonna go out of my way and like binge all of her books. So she might not be a new favorite author based off this one book, but I do see the talent and I do see why people have enjoyed, and so far from the reviews, a lot of people have given this 4 or 5 stars. So I do think it's gonna please a lot of you, and as I said, it is not a bad book by any means, and I'm very happy I read it. It definitely put me in the spooky vibes, and I really enjoyed. So those were my thoughts on this book. If you have read it, feel free to come discuss it with me on the Discord. Leave me a comment in this YouTube video and we can talk about it. If you have any questions as well, feel free to either DM me on Instagram, leave a comment, whatever you feel more comfortable with, and I will be glad to take the time to chat with you about this wonderful book. So that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon with another one. Bye guys, happy reading.